wave that is going on at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And she is, as you know, the most radical left person ever even thought of for a high office, certainly for the office of president. People don't know the real Kamala, but I do, and people that do what I do, they also know. But she is so far left that nobody's can even imagine, and her real thoughts are there. You know, she's changed. They call her a flip-flopper at the highest level that they've ever seen in politics, because she's come out with a policy and for years defund the police. You don't mind defunding, do you, fellas? Would you vote for a defunder? Would you vote? By the way, your people that you protect don't want defunders either. But she's been that until just recently. But she's always been for defunding the police. And the person that she's running with, Tim Walz, is equally far left. This is the most far left group. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And the press is giving them a free pass. And you're not going to have, if it was up to them, you wouldn't even have the men behind me, people behind me, representatives behind me. You wouldn't have them. They wouldn't have a job. They think it's going to just police itself. Everything's going to take care of itself. Her father is, as you know, a Marxist professor, and he obviously did a good job. But this is where she's coming from. And, you know, you see her now with a smile, and she's gotten rid of the laugh over the last couple of days. I don't know. I haven't seen her laugh. They've told her, don't laugh, please. But I'll bet inside she was laughing last night when she saw the way Joe Biden left, because that was a coup. That was a coup. And I'm no fan of his at all. And it started with the debate. And from that point on, it just got worse and worse. But that was a coup. It was a vicious, violent overthrow of a president of the United States. Since Comrade Kamala Harris took office, her administration's crime statistics show she's presided over a 43% increase in violent crime. These are all government numbers. 43% increase in violent crime. I'll bet the people behind me don't have anything like that. It just gets better. It doesn't get worse. Including a 58% increase in rape, 89% increase in aggravated assault, and a 56% increase in robbery. The crime in America, the fact is out of control. I watched last night in amazement as they tried to pretend that everything was great, the crime was great, the border was great, there wasn't a problem at all, no inflation, no nothing. There has been a report that the job numbers over the last period of time were fraudulent, and I understand that because I know how the job numbers go, and you want to be a bad person in high office, you can be a bad person, but the numbers are going to be revised, that the job numbers were far less at nobody's ever seen, if 600,000 to 1 million people less, jobs less. And let's see if that turns out to be true, but that's what the rumor is. It was reported by a very respected outfit group, and we'll see what happens. But that's a terrible insult to our economy, because we were seeing numbers that were okay, not great, but now we're seeing numbers that, when they're adjusted, are a disaster. But crime in America is out of control. I'm going to make it, along with the economy, inflation, strong borders, and energy dominance, my top priority. I'm including crime in America. You know, normally that's done locally, and we're going to give the local people a lot of help, like I did initially, but not that much. We had a lot of great numbers coming out when I was president. Now we're seeing numbers that are just absolutely horrific. The Democrats are holding their convention in Chicago in order to showcase it. And yet, as you know, on 4th of July weekend, 117 people were shot. Of the 117, 17 were killed. This is 4th of July weekend, and 40 were shot last weekend. I don't know how many were killed, but assume a lot. And that's a war zone that's worse than Afghanistan that we read about all the time. Speaking of Afghanistan, the worst and most embarrassing day in the history of our country, in my opinion. We left 13 dead soldiers, 47 obliterated, just obliterated. The arms, the legs, the face. Left people behind.
Welcome, everybody. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe
And we
if
left
you haven't.
$85 billion worth of equipment behind for the Taliban to use as it sees fit. And they're selling a lot of it because they don't need 700,000 guns and rifles. They don't need 72,000 armor-plated vehicles. They're one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world right now. They're selling our equipment because they said, by the way, would have never happened with me. Abdul would never have done that. But they said we didn't have anybody shot after my conversations
Hit
with
the
the
like
leader
button if you're voting
of the
for President
Taliban.
Trump in 2024.
Zero shot in 18 months. We had nobody lost in 18 months. He knew that he was not going to do that. I knew that. But now you look at what's happened, and it's back. You know, we would have kept Bagram. That's the big air base. Not because of Afghanistan, but because it's located 1 hour away, where from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So it's 1 hour away, and we had it one of the biggest air bases in the world. We built it for billions and billions of dollars many years ago. Got the biggest runways, the biggest everything, and we just walked away from it, gave it to them, and now China's occupying it. And I thought that the scene a few days ago of the third anniversary, they call it the defeat of America, was one of the ugliest scenes that I've seen on television in a long time. I've seen some pretty bad ones, so have you.
Thank you for joining. You are watching the greatest president of our lifetime. Please hit the like button.
We're witnessing some pretty bad ones. They had a parade where the parade was all of our equipment, a lot of our equipment, brand new, beautiful armor-plated trucks coming down a road, and people cheering. Not that many people cheering, actually, but there were people cheering. But they were making us look very bad because we have a fool. A fool is a president. They lied last night about things that nobody's ever seen. They lied about
Hello,
soldiers.
Troy. Thank you for joining.
At a gravesite, they lied
you.
about Charlottesville. They lied about inflation. The inflation's been absolutely horrible. Absolutely. Absolutely horrible. And everyone knows
Sorry about the buffering. I'm not really sure what's
We
going
had
on. I don't think
virtually
it's
no
me.
inflation. They had 9%, but that wasn't including some of the things that went up more than anything else. They gave themselves a pass. But mothers will no longer be losing their children because of weak liberal policies and politicians that have given up on securing a crime-free America. We want a crime-free America. We're going to stop violent crime in the United States. And it's people like this that can do the job better than anybody. They do the job justly and fairly, but there's nobody like these people. Thank you.
Death penalty for pedos.
There's nobody like them. So they can do it. They have to be given back their rights and their dignity. They have to be allowed to do their job. We're going to be guaranteeing immunities and and I'm not looking necessarily just here, but we have police in various areas that are pretty rough areas. If they do their job, if they're diligent in doing their job, they go after the police officer rather than the criminal. They lose their house, they lose their pension, they lose their family, they lose everything. They lose everything. And we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Over the past 4 years, the Marxist left has waged a vicious war on law enforcement in our country. They've taken away the dignity and the spirit and the life of some of these police officers. And that's why you see it. The crime is so out of control in our country. I mean, you have cities, I will say this, the top 25, almost all are run by Democrats. And they have very similar policies. It's just insane. But you can't walk across the street to get a loaf of bread. You get shot. You get mugged. You get raped. You get whatever it may be. And you've seen it, and I've seen it. And it's time for a change. We have to bring back our cities. We have these cities that are great cities where people are afraid to live in them now. They're fleeing the cities of our country. What we would consider, what we did consider, interestingly, like New York was, but he wasn't there that long, and he couldn't ruin what took place. But we had and just in a few short years, that changed. New York State is doing terribly. I heard the governor last
Desmond, how are you watching college football this year?
ESPN on Sling for sure. Come on, bro.
Desmond, people are wondering how are you watching college football on ESPN this year?
You can't have your gun even close to being drawn. You don't know what's happening. A lot of the windows are dark, so you don't know who's in there. But the door opens and just gets shot. Great police officer. And we have to give them protection, and we have to give them love. And
I don't know what was going on with RSBN. They were buffering pretty hard. And now it's happening again.
they're not doing it now.
I may move to that
We'll give
channel
our law
next if I have
enforcement
trouble with
heroes
this
the
one.
kind of protection and the resources that they so dearly deserve. And I will crack down on local Marxist DAs who refuse to enforce the law. They refuse to put murderers in jail. And you see it all over. As the district attorney of San Francisco, Kamala Harris, was one of the worst and one of the first Marxist prosecutors in America. She
Please bear with me for the next 5 minutes. The horse is calling me,
And
so I
some
have to
people
go
said
feed
she
her
was the
real quick.
godmother
It should
of
take less than
both
5 minutes,
sanctuary
really.
cities, because
But
this is a while ago.
I'll
This
be
is
right
when
back.
it all started. And that horrible shoplifting epidemic, she shielded illegal alien crack dealers from deportation. She fought like hell to have crack dealers not deported. She came up with the concept of $950 and below. You don't even get prosecuted. $950. So guys are walking into stores with calculators to figure out. Did you know that they have calculators? They're adding it up. They want to make sure they're under 950. But it didn't matter because they didn't prosecute the ones that went over either. She ignored the pleas of victims' families, members, and refused to seek. Death penalty against, as an example, an illegal alien MS-13 gang member. These are the worst gangs in the world who murdered an innocent. Absolutely no reason. They said, "Why did you do it?" He said, "I felt like it. I felt like it." So recently was called a Marxist prosecutor. She didn't even disclaim the title. She sort of liked it. As the California Attorney General, she
It could
redefined
be on my end.
child sex trafficking, assault with a
I'm
deadly
back.
weapon, and rape of an unconscious person as a nonviolent crime. All of them were redefined by her as nonviolent. Kamala Harris supports abolishing cash bail nationwide. Cash bail has been a disaster. When you abolish the no cash, don't worry about cash. You murdered somebody, don't worry about it. That was really the beginning of problems for New York, big problems for New York, but elsewhere also. But it means releasing violent criminals immediately after arrest. No money involved. Don't worry about it. Go home, enjoy yourself. Many of them disappear. You never find them again.
I want to make my hand wet, and then I'm going to slam it on this piece.
Country. And that was the week I left. This chart is very dear to my heart for another reason. This was the chart. I said, let me see it.
Hello, Susie.
But
Hello, Tumbleweed. Thank you.
it says a lot. And we had a couple of instances last night where things were mentioned, so I got it. Did crime rise under Trump and fall under Biden? They said it rose under
Yeah,
Trump and
YouTube doesn't like this.
and they
No
got
matter
rid of the
where I
opposite
go,
is
it's
true.
getting
Take a
a
look at
buffer.
this here.
So we'll just
It
do the
said-
best we can.
Is it true? Did crime rise under Trump and fall under Biden? No, comma. The opposite is true. This was a study group that went out and doesn't
You hear
care.
him
They do
twice?
the numbers.
Oh, crap.
And
All right, hang on a
another
second.
one
Let me
that
see if I can fix
historical
it.
comparison of the collapse of law enforcement. Kamala Harris as and all of the people that she's
No,
allowed
I'm
to
not
come
listening on
across the
anything
border. Don't
else.
forget, she was the border czar. Whether she wants to hear
Maybe
it or
I have.
not,
Oh, okay.
she still is.
It might have been.
Thank you. In
I don't
fact,
hear
you
an
can do it
echo.
right now. You know, they like to talk. It's all nonsense. That Donald Trump stopped a bill. I was opposed to it. So was everyone else. It was the weakest bill. Under that bill, millions of people would have been allowed to come in. This was a weak bill. But you didn't need a bill. I didn't have a bill. I said, close the border. And then we got to those numbers.
Okay. I'm still having a buffering issue. I'm not sure why.
I didn't need a bill. She doesn't need a bill. Biden doesn't know where he is. So where is he? Whatever happened to him? He got out. He got out. He's now sunbathing. He's in a beach someplace. But say close up the border, and it's closed. But they don't want to close the border because when they, in addition to what I said I was going to do, because certain areas needed it, as we closed areas, other areas became very, very strong in terms of people wanting to come through. So I bought 200 additional miles. It would have taken them about 3 weeks to erect it. We were all set to erect it. Then we had a terrible election take place, terrible election, as you and everybody here knows that. And I realized that they don't want to do it. And they actually sold that. And that was designed to the highest specifications of, when you look at the steel, it's concrete, 5,000 pound concrete inside, and then rebar. And it also has a lot of technology, wires and things in it for
Do you
high
remember all of
technology.
the
It was
fun the
designed
border
to the highest specs of the Border Patrol. I wanted actually concrete plank.
border-thons that we had,
I would
we
have done a
supported,
beautiful job with
we
precast,
donated to.
like you have in
That was
parking
our money.
garages, long span. It's called long span precast, but you had to be able to see through. I understand that they needed certain things that you can't do with concrete plank. So we did that, and very expensive to do because you needed all sorts. In other words, they wanted the steel, they wanted the concrete. It's all different methods of
I
very
remember
hard to cut it,
modding
very
for
hard to
over like
do it when you have different
72
substances,
hours
and then
one
very
time
powerful
for one of those
rebar inside.
border-thons that we were
And what happened
trying to
is,
get
as
people to
soon
donate
as they
money for
came in,
the border wall.
they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. They sold this stuff for somebody made a lot of money because that steel is very valuable, but they sold all of that hundreds of miles of stuff. You saw it stacked up for a long period of time where they stacked it up in an area because Texas wanted to use it and finish the job. We built hundreds of miles, but Texas wanted it. They would have paid for it. They refused to sell it to Texas. They refused to sell it to Arizona, and they refused to sell it to anybody. They sold it to the junkyards, I guess, and 5 cents on the dollar on the day. On day one, I will seal the border. I will stop the invasion. We had the border sealed. I had Mexico. I had thousands of soldiers from Mexico, free of charge. I said to the president, "You must give us soldiers because they're coming through. The caravans are coming through your country." No, 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 I cannot do that. I said, "Yes, you'll do that. If you don't do that, I'm going to put tariffs on your cars." And he said, "I will do that, sir." And he did it. He did it very quickly, and it really that you guys heard all about it. Made a great difference. We had thousands of Mexican soldiers guarding our border. I said, "Look, they're coming through your country. You have to guard your southern border, which is their border on the other side." And all of a sudden, they started, and we had remain in Mexico. It's called a remain in Mexico policy, which we never had. And they stayed in Tijuana, different places, hundreds of thousands of people. They didn't come into our country until they were checked. And then if they were good, we let them in. If they weren't, we wouldn't let them in. And we worked well with Mexico, actually. But now Mexico has really taken advantage of our country. They want billions of dollars just to talk. They wouldn't say that with me. They wanted, I think, $2 billion to. That wouldn't happen with me. I would say, "Oh, really? Is that right? That's the end of trade with Mexico." And they would say, "Sir, we will give you $2 billion. How about billions back home where they belong?" We have a problem because when I came in, they wouldn't accept MS-13 gang members. I told the generals we're going to get the gang members out. ICE and Border Patrol, the job these people do, but ICE would go into the country, get the MS-13 gang members out, the meanest, the most vicious. They kill people with knives. They killed 2 young students walking to school, 2 beautiful young 16-year-old girls walking to school. They killed them up and chopped them up into pieces with knives, dead. And ICE goes in and they go into those packs of rough people. And ICE is rougher than they are. These are incredible, brave patriots. A lot of people wouldn't want that job. You see fists and feet, you see everything flying, and then 2 minutes later they stand up and they grab them and they throw them into what they used to call a paddy wagon. They put them into planes, they take them out. The countries wouldn't take them back under President Obama. And I said, "Really, they're not going to take them back?" "Well, if they're not going to take them back, I'm going to stop paying them." I said, "How much money do we pay these countries? El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and others." He said, "How much money do we pay?" $750 million. I said, "Good, inform them we're not paying them anymore." And the following morning, I got calls from all of these countries. Sir, there must be a misunderstanding. We would love to take them back. We would love to have MS-13. We would love to have MS-13 back in our country. It would be a great honor to have them back. And, before we get too far, and we're almost finished, but before we get too far, I want to tell you that we have criminals from all over the world pouring into our country right now. Your job will never be obsolete, It will never be obsolete, unfortunately. It'd be nice if we could have peace, but we're not going to have peace. And this is something we're going to have to live with for a long time. She has allowed millions of people, open border, to flow into our country totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And they come from jails. and prisons, slightly different. They come from mental institutions, all mental institutions all over the world. This isn't just in South America. People think a lot of people coming from the Congo in Africa, the Congo, rough, and they're prisoners. They're prisoners. Say, where do you come from? Africa. Where in Africa? Prison. What did you do? We don't want to say. They turn out to be murderers. These are rough people, and we're allowing them into our country from all over the world, from South America, yes, but insane asylums, and many are terrorists. So we have patients, terrorists bring into our country totally unchecked, unvetted. We have some of the worst terrorists. We don't know too much about the country. And she's the president. She's in charge of the border. She could have closed up the border. She should have. We're not going to have trade into the United States at these ridiculous many years. They took it out of Detroit. They took it out of different places, but they took it, and they took it big from this state, from South Carolina, from a lot of different places. They took 32%, and I think now the number is bigger. You know, I don't know if you know that they're building some of the biggest car plants in the world right now in Mexico. Wouldn't have happened with me. Right now in Mexico, and China's the one building them, and they think they're going to make these cars and then release them into the United States without tax. It's not going to happen. We'll put 100% to a 200% tariff. We're not going to let it happen, because all of our jobs from your state will be gone. And I watched this union head. He's an incompetent guy. He's approving for what he did, for what he's allowed. Every job, every auto worker here will be out of a job within 3 years if I'm not elected. Every auto worker in the state, they're all going to be made in China. They're going to an all-electric policy. Well, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any country in the world, but we don't have for what you need for an electric car. But China does, and its territories do, and we're not going to let it happen. But they're building some of the biggest plants. I have a friend who builds plants. He said some of the biggest in the world, I think he's doing them, are being built in Mexico. And they're going to sell cars, produce them and sell them in this country with no tax. It's not going to happen. And I told him, I said, you better hope I don't win. Always dangerous to say these things. Maybe that's why I get shot at and other people don't. Right, John James? That's probably why I get shot at. Other people, they'll protect other people because they can't believe they got so lucky. But I have to do what I have to do. I have to do the right thing. The border czar, Kamala Harris, has allowed hordes of illegal alien criminals to literally stampede into our country. We're going to end that on day one. We're going to close our border. We're going to get all of the bad ones out. And we're going to get them out fast. In Shelby Township, Michigan, earlier this year, a 32-year-old, previously deported illegal alien monster, was arrested for repeatedly sexually assaulting a young girl under the age of 13. Local law enforcement described the crimes as absolutely horrific and says he had many other victims, including death is involved, death. Young girls. In St. Joseph County, Michigan, an illegal alien was recently charged with breaking into a home and sexually assaulting two very little girls, very badly assaulting. In Mississippi, just days ago, an illegal alien child predator was charged with raping a 10-year-old boy, and there were other cases where they were raping 10-year-old boys and girls, and in many cases they were dead. They were killed. Last week in Coney Island, 2 Kamala migrants were arrested for the rape of a 46-year-old woman who was loved by so many people, throwing her to the ground and raping her over and over again, and then working her over with a knife to her throat. One of them had previously been arrested for raping another woman, but he was shielded from deportation by the New York City sanctuary laws, which Kamala strongly supports. She wants it very much. The woman said he didn't want to rape me. He wanted to kill me. She thought she was dead. She survived, but she thought she was dead. She said he didn't want to rape me, he wanted to kill me. This is what we're allowing into our country. These are, and then you hear, oh no, the people coming in, they're much less violent than the people. Hey, that's not right. They're much more violent. And that, they make a hat. Sheriff, they make a hat. And I don't want to brag, but it says Trump was right about everything. And if you look, whether it's the border, this, I've been right about everything. Unfortunately, I wish I wasn't. So when I return to the White House, we will stop the plunder, rape, slaughter, and destruction. Living in the suburbs, I keep hearing about the suburban woman doesn't like Trump. Well, I think it's a fake poll, because why would they like me? I keep the suburbs right alongside of the house, and I'm keeping the illegal aliens away from the suburbs. I think that they like me a lot. I think it's a lot of fake polls. We've seen a lot of fake polls over the years. I was one. We wanted and did a lot better the second time than I did the first. I have a strong police force. They want to be in their house and they want to be safe. They're right. I think that's the number one thing. I hope they like my personality. It's have a nice personality, but to me, it wouldn't be very important. The personality. They want to be safe. They want people like this happy, and they want people like this taken care of properly, because those are the people that keep them safe. So we'll shut down all deadly sanctuary cities throughout the country, because all they do is they shield criminals. I mean, they basically serve portions of law enforcement to immigration enforcement. We're going to put a lot of immigration enforcement. We're going to close down the border one. And we are going to, just so you understand, I am not a radical at all. I'm just the same to come into our country. A lot of people, we need them. We need them for men through a process. And if I'm elected, we'll get them the hell out of here. We're going to get them out of here fast, very fast. And I told you that that other countries who really they put their people into groups. They send them up here, and by the thousands. The
Sorry
caravans, I
about
think it was
the
the name that I came up
interruption.
with. I don't know. Maybe somebody will say he's lying about that. Somebody Somebody else used the term 14 days earlier, but we came up because it just seemed like an appropriate term. It's a caravan of thousands of people. We have one caravan coming up right now, thousands of people that go right into the country. But I called these, they wouldn't take the MS-13 people back or other criminals back. And the general said, we're just not able to do it, sir, because they won't take them back. They'd put planes on the runways so that you couldn't land the plane. They'd block up the bus lane so you couldn't bring the buses, and you couldn't get them back. And when I told them that they wouldn't get any more money, I said, let them know they're delinquent. They broke in the deal. We're not going to get any more money. We paid them for years, hundreds of millions of dollars. The next morning, all three countries called me like clockwork separately. Sir, is there a misunderstanding? I understand that perhaps you would like to talk to us. I said, yeah, you're sending people into, and they're sending them, by the way. They don't want them. They're sending them. All of the countries are sending them. And now they're coming in because of her, because she's so pathetic and weak at the border. The worst job, the worst border czar in history, I can tell you that. Whether she's a czar or just in charge of the border, it doesn't matter. But they're sending them in levels that we've never seen before. And they're destroying our country. But they all said, all three, it was almost like identical conversations. It was, sir, is there anything we can do to make up for this misunderstanding? I said, yep. You take your MS-13 and you take your gang members and you take your criminals and your drug dealers. We're sending them back, and we're sending them back today. And we sent thousands and thousands of people back. This has stopped for years. Under Bush it stopped, and under Obama it stopped. But this had been taking place for years, and I only found out. I said, that's good, get them out. I don't want to put them in our jails, because we put them in our jails. What are we going to do? Keep them for 50 years, 60 years, and the expense? The really bad ones, we did do that, though, however, because, we don't want them coming back. But all of them said, sir, we would be delighted to take MS-13 back. This would be a great honor. They're such lovely people. And we took them out by the thousands. We took MS-13 ICE, took MS-13 out of our country by the thousands and thousands, and they received them, and that's the way. It's just another little story, but it's a story that's very important, because I can't see a guy like Biden making that call. Can you? Do you think Biden thinks at night, gee, how are we going to get MS-13 out? He doesn't know he's alive. He didn't know he's alive. And this one is just a Marxist. I mean, she's a Marxist communist person, and we're not ready for a communist president, okay? We're not ready for it. We're going to destroy our country. Under my leadership, no community will be surrendered to violent criminals. No citizen will be abandoned to migrant crime. We have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's probably more vicious than the crime that we already have, which is pretty vicious. These people are vicious, and please don't let anyone convince you that our criminals and we have more crime. They are sending massive number of criminals. And you've heard me say this before, Venezuela crime is down 72%, 72, because they've taken their criminals out of Caracas. They've taken their criminals out of all of their cities, all of their areas, all of the country, and they're sending them to us. And I'm amazed that they're not doing it quicker, to be honest with you. It's
Thank you
happening
for
fast.
watching.
They're
Please hit
also
the like,
emptying out the jails.
share,
And this is
and
true all
subscribe
over
if you haven't.
all over the world. They're emptying out their prisons, and they're taking their criminals from off the streets. They're taking their drug dealers, and their crime rates are down at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And everyone says, oh, so-and-so's doing a great job running such and such a country. No, they're not. They're just very intelligent. I would do it if I were them. I would do it much faster. I can't believe they still have some left. But their jails are getting to be very empty. And what they're doing is they're literally dropping them in. They're busing them in, and they're bringing them in. And they're saying, don't ever come back. If you come back, you get the death penalty. Or if you come back, you get killed. Don't ever come back. And you see the crime statistics are unbelievable. If you look at the jails they've never been so low in terms of world. I'm talking all over the world, because they're sending their criminals to the United States of America, and they're saying, don't ever come back. And their jails are being emptied, and their criminals are being taken off the streets, and their crime rates are plummeting. But that's what we want for our country. So we're sending those people back, and these are the people that can do it. So we're going to have a reformed Department of Justice. Will once again be a friend and partner to our great local police and police officers general, and will be working with victims of crime very closely, but will not be working with the criminals that commit the crime. We're going to change it around. Right now, the criminal has a lot more respect within our Department of Justice than the victims. We're going to be working with the victims. We're going to get the gangsters, the drug dealers, the dangerous offenders behind bars, and we're going to get them ideally out of our country, ideally, except when in extreme cases. We have some extreme cases where they've murdered many people. And in that case, we want to make sure they're away. But the amount of crime that we have is unbelievable. And the lack of crime that these other places, it just makes so much sense, doesn't it? That's all common sense, too. They're taking their criminals and they're bringing them to the United States. And they look so great. And cities like Caracas, which was a very dangerous place to be, these are cities that have opened up. They have new life. But our country is suffering. And you know, they just got here over the last 2 years during our great borders czar, who wants to be our president. They'll be laughing. Who wants to be our president? They'll be laughing. Watch, President Xi will be laughing. Putin will be laughing. They'll all be laughing. By the way, the war with Russia would have never started with Ukraine, would have never started if I was president. October 7th would have never happened. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. This is a very
I'm just having a very rough time with this feed today.
dangerous time that we're in. It's dangerous in terms of crime and all, but it's very dangerous in terms of a possible World War III. We're very close to World War. People don't realize it. We're closer than we've ever been, I think, ever since World War II. But this would be the war of wars because of weaponry. This isn't, as I say, two army tanks going back and forth, shooting at each other. The level of power, the level of weaponry that there is in the world today is so bad. It's so dangerous. It's so bad. And you need the right person to be president. You know, we had no war when I was president, except that I totally defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate. Everyone said it would take 5 years. It took me like about 4 weeks. Because we have a great military. We have great generals, not the ones you see on television, not the ones that did the Afghanistan botchery, but we have great military people, and they're never going woke. You know, you keep hearing our military is going woke. The top people would like to see it, but it's never going to. These are not people, just like these people will never be. Do you promise you'll never be woke? I don't see a lot of wokeness. There's not a lot of wokeness. I don't think so. But we're going to stand up for law-abiding citizens of America. We're going to be really, I think, an inspiration to the world. But we have to start by remedying a situation that was caused by somebody that right now is running for president of the United States. She would be a disaster as president. I love our country. I didn't need this. I didn't have to do this. I didn't need to get indicted by any time I fly over a state. They indict you. Got indicted more than the great Alphonse Capone, right? And nothing. My father's looking down. My mother's looking down. He was such a good boy. I don't know what happened. But I didn't need this. I had a beautiful life. But to me, I wouldn't change it for the world, because we're going to take this country, we're going to make it safe again, and we're going to make America great again. And I want to thank everybody for being here, and God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, you're just listening in there to the former President Donald Trump, who made
Thank you all for joining. Thank you for joining, everybody. I appreciate you. Please come back at 9 o'clock for the nightly at 9. And if we're not here, we're on another live watching protests. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Oh, is he? Several hotels. That's their base. They like to point us to us as being the radicals, the destructive. And if nothing else, this should prove who the violent ones are, who likes to burn things down. It's their base. They may dress up as us. They may try to look like us and infiltrate all of our groups, which they have, not just in real life, but also in the internet world. Yeah, but this should be pretty eye-opening. People are waking up at a faster and faster rate every day, and I'm grateful. It wasn't us. Well, I hope that it's a fake threat or whatever. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. That's terrible. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. If anything else exciting happens or things go sideways at the DNC, I will be here live. So hit the bell, hit all, so that you don't miss any short videos, any regular videos, any lives. And I'll see you later. Thank you.